What's up, everybody? Real with Omar, Bronx location today. I'm here with special guest, attorney, pro basketball player or amateur player? Don't answer yet. Amateur pro basketball player, Kevin Diffley.
Yes.
Kevin Diffley, thanks for being on the show today.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Happy to be here.
So can we elaborate on that? You're a lawyer.
I am.
And you used to be a ball player?
I'm a has-been.
All right.
Gotta get back
You're
out
washed
there in
now?
shape.
You're washed, as we call it?
Well, we'll see. I don't know. We got to go out to the court.
Okay.
I still feel like I can move in my mind, but when you get a little bit older, I think the body plays catch-up.
Yeah, the mind thinks it can do it, and the body's telling you what really can happen.
Yeah, but I was telling you, I got two boys, got a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. So
Wow.
if that's not motivation to get back in shape, nothing will be.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
So talk to me, what kind of law do we do?
Yeah, law, we started out, we did primarily residential real estate just because I knew a few realtors, brokers, lenders. Got out there. Once you get involved in the residential real estate, as you know, it becomes a volume game, so you have to keep that up. At the point now, it's probably about 75% of our business, but we're also transitioning into a lot more commercial as our clientele continues to develop in that regard. Wills, trusts, and estates. A lot of things that lend themselves well to real estate. They're sort of supplemental.
Right, like ancillary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They plug and play. Right, I got you.
Yeah. So also landlord-tenant, personal injury, and business law.
Okay. Do you have a specific demographic that you cover, like a specific area in New York City, or you're all over there?
Right now, we're barred in New York State, so we do anything in New York State. I spoke to you briefly just last week about it, but on settlement side, on the bank attorney side, New York is a bank attorney state. We've closed as far up as Rochester,
wow.
which is pretty
That's
much
far.
borderline Canada. It's like 8-hour drive.
Yeah, that's far.
I didn't drive up there. We got the deal done.
We had it done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you told me before off camera, but you said you were late to the game. Can you give me like the whole mechanic of how you decided later to change?
Yeah,
Go into you want people to know who you are, right?
Well, if we want to get.
Let's go from college.
Okay.
Let's go from
college. I went to like 5 different colleges. Was a bit of a knucklehead. I always say there's 2 reasons I went to law school. I went back to law school when I turned 30.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by a little bit late to the game. Also not practicing pre-08 when you hear some of those stories that went around.
Right.
Typically in real estate.
The crazy ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The Wild Wild West. The Wild Wild West, guys. Pre-08. Pre-meltdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we have certain laws and regs in place to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Hello, Dodd-Frank.
Or so we'll see. But yeah, 2 things that really propelled me to law school. One is my mother, and the other is my failures. So I always felt like with basketball, I feel like I never hit my peak. I never reached my full potential, and I felt like that was a failure.
Okay.
A lot of it had to do with me just being a knucklehead, bad attitude, getting on the wrong side of the coach in particular, legendary coach in high school that I played under. And, I always tell the story. It was in my senior year, after the season was over, he gave me a box of letters from colleges.
Really?
Scholarship letters,
Interest letters.
And things like that. And he said, look here, I told all of them you'll never go to any of them and you'll never play for any of them.
What?
I was like, what the?
Yeah.
Which only
why?
just fired me and
Right.
made me more mad and have more of a bad attitude.
Right.
So I was always blaming it on other people, and then in retrospect, it really was me. And
this is you looking back at yourself.
when you're young, you never reflect.
Right.
That sort of becomes an older thing, and some people never reflect in their lives, which is why they never really progress
Or
and
grow.
never really satisfy, happy, none of that. Have
Yeah.
goals, things of that nature. So, I looked at that. A lot of that stuff propelled me. And I said, I failed myself when I really looked into it. I never reached levels that I should have reached, and you could blame anybody else in the world, but it's on you at the end of the day.
If you don't mind me asking you, so why do you think the coach said that to you?
Well,
just be honest. This is years in the past,
I
right?
just think it was bad attitude. Knucklehead, acting out.
You made his job difficult?
Potentially entitlement. I suppose, yeah.
Okay.
Look, when you look at a teenager now, you have a couple of kids.
I have 3 young adults in my life, yes.
Yeah. It's very young. You can't expect them to really have this know all, where all, know what I'm supposed to be doing, especially if there was no guidance.
Right.
And that would have been, in my mind as a coach, opportunity for the guidance. But, when you get some coaches, they have so many people come in and come out each year. It's like, look, you're either there and you got it or you don't.
Right.
So I had to learn in my mind, I had to learn the hard way. But to me, that was sort of the best thing that could have happened. And then on the flip side, my mother, she was always educational background. She was one of 9. Everybody in her family has degrees and advanced degrees, and she kind of held back as I was growing up because I was so into sports,
You were an athlete.
basketball,
You were an athlete,
and
right.
she stepped back. So for me, it was like I proved to her that I can do this and prove it to myself. And with the failures, I said, look, I'm never going to fail myself like that again. Now it's just
So
all
going
about reaching.
from high school to college, did you stop playing ball?
No, I played, but I bounced around. I was at a different college each year.
Yeah, you said 5.
Five colleges.
You said 5, yeah.
It took me a few years.
Was that because of basketball or just in general?
Primarily basketball, and then some, the knuckleheadness, getting in
Okay.
trouble here and there, and,
Okay.
and having some issues that we can only talk about
Off screen.
camera.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so you graduate, then what do we do?
Yes. Graduate what? Law school?
No, college, sorry.
Oh, college?
Yeah.
Yeah, continued to play some hoops, and then got involved in a business that was wholesale, retail, HVAC related. And my father and another gentleman owned it. So, it started off, it was really straight cold calling.
Okay. So
So
no special treatment. He was like, you want to be in sales or you want to be involved?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No special treatment at all.
Okay.
If anything, the opposite.
Okay. Yeah. He's like, you gotta learn the hard way.
Yeah. Kicking the boot, but
Right.
I loved it.
Okay.
Knocking on doors, opening up, developing new relationships, getting somebody to trust you who you just meet from the beginning.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And even getting them to open the door.
Yeah.
So, all of that. All of that went well. I really enjoyed sales. I really enjoyed meeting new people, learning about people, learning how I can help them, how we can work together, and
So let me stop you right there. Let me give you a little contra. So in high school and college, you had issues because you had to work within the system, right? So now you go to sales, and now you have to learn how to create a relationship instantly, and be able to vibe and collaborate with somebody brand new. Isn't that like a funny dichotomy?
Yeah.
Right. Just think about that. I'm just putting together what you just told me.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I understood what was happening.
Yeah, it worked to the well-roundedness.
Yeah.
And of all people, when you're in business, you have to be well-rounded.
Yeah.
'Cause
You have to be everything to everybody, right? And be able to understand everybody's perspective and
Yeah.
every point of view, right? Yeah.
and everything to your business.
Right.
Every
Especially in the
aspect
beginning.
of it.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah, because there's
absolutely.
always new challenges.
All right. So you're there. You start cold calling. You start developing relationships. Did you start excelling or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
did well, broke some barriers down, implemented some new things into the company.
Nice.
One of them being a commission structure. How do you have a salesperson with no commission
Oh, really? You
Yeah.
introduced it?
structure? Yeah. I said,
What'd your father say?
Yeah, well, we didn't, like I said, we didn't always see eye to eye on a lot of things. But that was one thing that I think that they agreed on. Like, look, this is really the main thing. You can't get mad at a salesperson who has no incentive.
Right.
That's the whole
Sales.
That's the whole idea of
Yeah.
the position.
Right.
You got to give somebody whatever they have baseline, and then let them excel.
Right.
Let them run free.
Right. So how was that conversation in the beginning? Like first you're like, all right, I don't know, I'm just making numbers up. I
Yeah.
did 10 accounts, Dad.
Yeah.
And then he's like, great. And then I did 20 accounts. And then he's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it was beyond a conversation. When I came to him, I made sure I came to him when I was full and ready. I had a whole business plan lined up.
Oh, okay. So you came to
Yeah,
him correct,
yeah.
and you had a plan.
Yeah,
Right.
I had it all written out. I had examples in the whole nine, and
How did he receive that?
don't put this on the camera. don't put this one
Let's
on.
edit
man.
this part out.
I love my dad, and he
Yeah.
knows we definitely butted heads back then, and we didn't always see eye to eye. But it was more like, look, at the time anyway, you're 25, and he might
I'm
have been-
55 or
He
whatever.
might have been in 55.
Yeah.
It took me, and he was always on the business end. That was his 38th business.
Damn. Okay.
37, fucking horrible.
37 failures, and this is his one.
And this
that's
is the one that really, really excelled,
Stuck.
and now it's doing well.
Okay.
My brother ended up subsequently taking it over,
okay.
and it took me this long to get to my area where I'm successful in business. And I said, well, good. Then it should take me half the time because I have you
Right.
to look up to and to, to learn from.
Yeah. You have the blue. You give me the blueprint.
And it was like, look, you're 25. Don't come in with all of these business system and plans and things.
Wow. Okay.
Pay your dues in a sense.
Right. That's the old school mentality.
It is.
It is.
A lot of older people have that mentality.
Well, it's hard too because you are the youngest or the oldest son.
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest son, so you're the next in line, right? But you're still his son, right? So he's still. I mean, again, and I'm not on his side. I'm just. Again, I'm just feeding off of whatever you're telling me. I'm kind of like the mirror, right? And here he had like 37 failures. So maybe he's rocking a little bit in 38. He's like, all right, just let it grow, let it marinate a little bit. Maybe that was a protective issue.
And it was going well, and
right.
It went well, and it still is to this day. And
right.
that's the company that really stuck and took over.
So then, when is the conversation? When do you start thinking, all right, maybe I should, maybe I want to pivot? When did that? Like, what happened? Something had to happen.
Well, I mean, those conversations not being received.
Okay, that was the beginning.
I think that was all it took.
Right, you were like, all right, I've hit a ceiling, right? Basically, you think if I'm not gonna go nowhere, like I gotta figure something else out.
To take the time to do business plan the whole bit for that not to be received really in any regard,
or even given any type of consideration, right?
Right. It was like, look,
all right,
this really isn't it.
I'm done here. Yeah. I got you.
To the day, I still look at him as the inspiration behind business. I always knew I was going to be in business, always going to be on my own, and I had both of those sides, the educational side from my mother and then the business side from my father. Which
is great. But why law? You could have been anything else, right?
Yeah, true. I ask myself that to this day. Law, I think it was more, that was one of the sort of society looks at it as this high-end educational, and really, you look at that and you look at medical. It's one of the careers that you feel are the guarantee to success, right? Especially people if you come from, I don't know about you, if they came from another country or whatever, but especially the immigrants, like they were like, yo, come here, be a doctor, be a lawyer. Right. It's because you weren't going to the NBA at this point. Not a shot, but I'm saying like that was a thought at one point in your life, right? You're like, yo, I want to play ball. That didn't work out. All right, so what's next now? Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a step that I just said, you know what, this is what's gonna be done, and I'm gonna do it.
Did you still work for your dad while you were in school, law school?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But I did while I was studying for the LSAT. During my it was mostly Manhattan-based business, so I was on the train all the time. That was when I was studying, reading books and things like that. That was helping propel the motivation.
And was he supportive?
When I had the conversation, he was. Yeah.
Well, you want to talk about that conversation?
Well, no, it just took a little while for it to really marinate. I wasn't going to have it until I already had my acceptance letters in place and things like that.
Okay.
I gave him enough.
You wanted to let him know that it was not just a thought. This is going to happen because I've already locked it in.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
At the end of some of the bad conversations, it was, if you think you could do better, then go elsewhere and do it.
Wow.
And I took that seriously.
Wow.
I took that seriously, whether it was said in jest or not.
Right. And whether it's your father or not, because from a stranger is one thing, but then from your dad's another thing. But how's your relationship with him now? I feel like we should have him here next time.
We have him in here. It's going to be comedy, man. It's going to be comedy. He's going to be sitting there breaking balls the whole time.
Okay. But how's it now? Like now you're all right. So we'll get to that.
To just give you a quick full throttle, which our relationship is really good now.
Great.
When I started the firm, I signed a
What year was that?
2020 November, coming up on 3 years.
So you're
now.
new.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm giving you guys context.
Yeah.
I want people to understand the evolution.
Coming up on 3 years now.
Okay. So in 2020, you found your spot.
Yeah. 2020, I ended up.
Let's go back. You passed the bar when?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And then what did you do for those few years?
I worked for a title company about 8 months.
As a what? As a sales rep? As an underwriter?
Clearance.
Okay. All right. So you learned your title business there.
A lot of bigger commercial files. Yeah. And then I went out to a small firm. They excelled in sort of the smaller $2 to $50 million range of commercial real estate.
Right.
Did a lot of business law. Very brilliant guy. He also was an accountant. So a lot of his business clients, he did their taxes as well.
Right. So he was like an umbrella shop. He had a lot of different facets, sleeves.
Yeah. Right. And small firm too. A lot of the stuff was in-house. So they were hands-on with everything. To me, that was the best way to learn. So, I learned great.
Okay.
And I felt confident.
Did you have a relationship with him prior, or it was like a cold call?
It was, it was just an interview.
Like, how do you get there?
interview process.
So you saw it online or the newspaper, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, with the title company, that was the only job I was ever fired from.
Why were you fired?
Well, I hear some stories in the background because it was a local company in
You
White
got a
Plains.
good story. You got a good story.
By near my law school and the owner.
Are we gonna say the name or not? We don't want to do that.
Well, it's up to you. I don't know if we want to put them on.
I don't care.
Nah. We'll leave them off. But I heard it was to make room for one of the owner's sons who had just ended up
passing the
bar.
Like
he didn't pass like the first 1 or 2 times.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Among other things.
Okay.
And we'll leave the names off for now.
Okay.
Maybe on our next one.
On our next one, part 2. Part 2 will enable part 2.
Yeah.
Get the smoke.
Yeah, exactly. So oddly enough, I had all the motivation, but if you don't know anything, how can you put it into practice? You get a degree from law school. What do they teach you? It's all theoretical. Nothing is you give me a real estate training, I'm going to say, I'll figure it out, but it's going to take me a long time, and then I'll probably fuck it up. Right. Or at least fuck something up along the way.
A piece of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And to me...
And law is all based on precedent. Not to interrupt you, but it's based on something else. So basically you're just doing research all the time, right? I'm talking about law when you go to trial.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot more on the litigation.
Yeah.
But, and I was still just going out trying to make connections after I got fired, and I was like, a couple of months, no real action, no real money coming in, and I said, you know what, let me go back and really try to learn from a law firm the right way before I go out on my own.
Okay.
So that's what I did.
So you got the interview, got it there.
Years. Yeah. Okay. About 3 years.
And were they supportive when you decided to go on your own, or what happened? What became that the genesis or the reason?
Dude, they hate me.
All right, they hate you. They hate you because you left?
You know what? It was like the perfect storm. It was right when COVID happened.
Right.
I had already had everything in mind. I formed my PLLC, so I had it in place, but I hadn't done anything with it. And they were billing hours, and they were paying me based on what I was billing, but they weren't giving me any work to bill. So I wasn't getting paid.
So you were,
It was COVID. It was like everybody was home. So I'm like,
so what am I doing?
This opportunity, everything in place, business plan. I told you, I have to go back to my old phone because it got cracked. I never have to reopen it. Do you know how much content I had from that time? We're gonna blow this thing up.
Okay.
We're gonna blow this thing up. Okay. I want to go over a lot of it with you, but all of that was in place, and it sort of was just I was still in a sense dragging them along because I still needed some money. So I was still doing the work, sending it in, getting paid, and then July came. I think when everything sort of opened up, it was like people were going back to the office.
Right.
And I had my son. I had my first son at that time. And I'm like, look, I'm not comfortable going back into the office.
Right, because you might expose. Yeah, I get it.
Man, even though I knew, like, I'm out.
Right.
But I just let that sort of dangle through, like, September, October. And then, really sort of officially went out, like, November 1st. That was when I was just cold knocking on doors and starting up the business, trying to bring in sales.
Is that when you signed your lease? November 1st? Or you started working first to try to establish your name?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started working first. As you know, I mean, that was right after that initial COVID period, the real estate market started just...
Yeah. Everybody had the stimmy money, and everybody was paying cash over asking. Everybody had $50,000. Cab drivers were getting stimulus packages. It was crazy.
Yeah. And then the house prices started doing the same thing.
Right. Because the interest rates are like 2%.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then everybody for some reason, everybody had a lot of money.
It was a good time to be in real estate. I mean, it still is.
Yeah.
But that sort of helped catapult to where it was. So, November, and I signed the lease in February, and I was a little nervous about it. It was a lot of space. It's not as big as this building here.
It's not big as Soundview, but it's all right, man.
It was.
That's what she said. I just sneaked that one in there.
Yeah, that's all right.
But listen.
Irish guys used to hearing that.
It's daunting because you're on your own, right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the part where I can step in a little bit and connect with you more in terms of, I get a lot of questions like, being an entrepreneur. I was like, being an entrepreneur is lonely. Like, because nothing's promised. You gotta wake up with your own positive attitude every day. You start at zero every day, right? I had a monster closing yesterday. That's great. What about today?
What's happening?
Because, a great month and a not great month, and a great month equals 3 average months, right? That becomes the thing. But people don't understand that. They see the highlights, and they see, you know, social media. They see, you know, whatever people want to put out there is what you really see. You don't see the grit and the grind beneath, you know, beneath it all. And for you to say that, yeah, you're nervous, I salute you, because you should be, right? And not in a way that stops you, but in a way that you're aware of it, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so you open up your spot. You start rocking.
Just to bring it back to what we spoke about just quickly.
Yes.
I called my father and I said,
when you sign your lease?
I have a good deal on this space.
Okay.
You know, should I take it? You know, I probably have 1,500 square feet on top and then another maybe 1,200 underneath.
Nice.
Which we're building out the lower level now. He said, if it's a good deal, you know, business is okay. He said, you're going to keep doing better. He said, sign it.
Okay.
To take it another step further, their satellite office in Douglaston was closing down.
Who's there?
My father's
Oh, your
company.
father's coming. All right, all
Yeah,
right.
they have a big warehouse in Jersey, like
Okay.
25,000 square foot warehouse in Jersey. They have all their stock and things of that nature. Most of the businesses in the city. You know, we were bullshitting over dinner. And they're like, yeah, you know, we'll come in and we'll lease some of the space, sublease some of the space for you. They're in there now. I see them every day.
They're subleasing some of the space from you.
Yeah, yeah.
That worked out.
Yeah,
That worked out.
That was the help.
Do you see Dad there or no?
I see him almost every day. I mean, he's pretty much retired, but he still comes in.
Yeah, because he has to have
Gym
purpose.
across the street.
You gotta have purpose, bro. You gotta have something to wake you up every day and keep moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think what I start seeing when people retire, and they kind of don't have a routine, that's when you start to see things break down.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's like no purpose, no movement, no this, no that. All right, so boom, you're rocking. You're obviously building relationships. Let me ask, because you're kind of young and new to this compared to me. I've been doing this since 04, 05.
Oh.
To take it a step back, the reason I know I came to this building and have a relationship with Jose Rodriguez was because at a certain point in the industry, you know, you had loan officers everywhere, kind of like we had like 2 years ago. Everybody was a real estate agent, everybody was a loan officer. But what would happen, shout out to all the loan officers that take a lot of time off, is, you know, they couldn't close the deal, right? But you got the buyer, the realtor, and the attorney trying to save their deal because, you know, the client at the end of the day is crazy stressed. They're like, what's up with that? And it wasn't him originally. Somebody else referred me to one of his clients, and I closed it. And there was one client here that I spoke to, and we left him there. I was like, all right, man, if you're happy, good. So his cousin started later. I closed him first. Then somebody else who knew the guy, I closed him too. So finally this guy comes to me and I close him too. So then Jose finally called me and goes, I want to meet you. He's like, yo, how is it that you close these loans? I was like, because I pay attention. I was like, I know I ask the client what they need, what they have, and I construct the narrative for it to work, for an underwriter.
So on that level,
yeah.
If you had to just sum it up, what separates you as a lender from all these other loan officers?
Because I know everybody's guidelines. Yeah. I know the money comes from 3 or 4 major institutions worldwide, right? And they all have what they like. Right. I pay attention. I know what everybody likes. So if you tell me, oh, this is the type of deal, I'm like, I'm just gonna use fake names, right? I use real names because I don't care. Chase doesn't like that. Wells doesn't like that. Citi doesn't do that. Citizens does that. Like, you know, I'm just giving you an example. I don't use those banks, but I just give you an example of I know who likes what. I know when stock earnings come out and people are not lending enough, they then create an appetite. They'll be a little more what we call aggressive. You know, like I pay attention to all that stuff. So I know, right? I know who needs to move money. I know who doesn't want to move money. I know who cares about certain things. I know everything. I've gone to banks and told the clients, get me on the phone with you and your loan officer. I'll tell the loan officer, yo, use this program that you fucking have. It'll work. No, I don't think it'll work. It'll work. And they've closed. And I didn't make no money out of it, but that's why. Because I know everybody's rules. So if I'm not the best fit, I'll tell you, yo, man, I think you should try this. And if they deny it, you can come back to me. I can repackage it and send it back and close it.
Right.
So that's the difference between me and most
That's like we were talking about.
Yeah.
If you can't get it done, you'll make sure you bring somebody to the right place to get it done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And I mean, years of doing it. It's years of doing it. It's the reps, repetition of doing it, and seeing the cycles of the market. All right, but back to you. So you start creating relationships. Who have been your best referral sources so far?
Well, I mean, that's why we're sitting here.
Right.
You know, I went out, I said I knew some realtors, knew some real estate brokers, knew some lenders. Those were the first doors I started knocking on. That's why a bulk of the business right now is real estate.
Right. Is it settlement or is it buyer?
We're about even.
Okay.
We do buy, sell,
Okay.
and settlement.
Okay.
You know, even though, like I was saying, at my old firm, I didn't do almost any residential real estate because
You do
they charge
commercial.
hourly.
Right. So you want to charge on the bigger transactions per hour instead of per.
You know, that's more of a commercial thing, though. You
Right.
try to do that residential.
No.
Almost everywhere. You might be able to get away with it in Manhattan, but outside of that,
Yeah, but the
you're
numbers
not
don't make
getting the
sense.
deal.
Yeah, numbers don't make sense for that.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just a volume thing.
Yeah.
So, the relationship was one thing, and then I had to show that I could do the work. But I came from this high quality firm, so as soon as I jumped out, I felt like I was running circles on some of these attorneys that have been doing it for 20, 30 years.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay.
And I was comfortable and confident with that. And thank God the volume has just continued to increase. Now we have a full staff.
The crazy part is that sometimes you'll see like in the family attorney really does, I don't know, personal injury. But they get the real estate deal and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Yeah. And then you see, what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of that and people get comfortable or like I have a client we referred to an attorney and they're like, oh, but I saw online get a lot cheaper. And I told them, I said, look, man, sometimes cheaper is not better, right? Because I said, you want an attorney who's responsive, who's on it, who cares about your deal. If I'm referring you, usually they care a little more because they have a relationship with me.
Right.
If you go on, well, before we used to have a lot of people come from like 32BJ, the union lawyers. That was horrible too.
I always say, sometimes you don't know the quality of your attorney until something goes wrong.
Right.
So you better hope you don't have the transaction where something goes wrong on your deal. And you went the cheap route and you paid an attorney that's doing whatever amount for the closings. You're not ever talking to them. They don't pick up the phone because you're paying them such a low amount. And it's really just a numbers thing on their end, and then something goes wrong and you're picking up the pieces. Hopefully you don't have a big down payment that's on the line because I've seen that happen too in the past.
I get a lot of calls for those type of deals, TOE letters. I think I told you about it. TOE letters get that's like the new flex. The TOE letter. Yo, we don't close this week, we're not closing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Where's everybody? Oh, we just want to make sure.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure you close. I like who does that, but I think that's a direct knee-jerk reaction to the quality of loan officers out there. Due to the fact when interest rates were so low, it was seen as easy money, because it really was. I mean, if I'm being totally frank, you have DU and LP, which are the programs that everybody uses. You put in information, you press a button, the program tells you if it's acceptable or not. You read the findings. If you can meet the findings, you're approved. And when rates were really low, banks were more aggressive because banks were trying to push out money. Right. They were trying to keep the economy afloat. But now you have to think a little more, and banks have little overlays, and they want to see certain things because now the money's not free anymore. And that's become the change in the economy. Business is still getting done. Maybe not as, the volume is not as high, but I think people still buying and selling. We're still selling. We're selling, hopefully, shout out to the condo closing on Friday, $2 million condo cash. I mean, there's still buyers out there and there's still sellers out there. It still could be done. It's just, I feel that with the interest rates being so low, there was like almost a new economy of buyer. And this is not a shot at realtors or loan officers being unscrupulous. I'm just saying they stretched themselves, right? They stretched themselves any way they could to get out of the city, because at a certain point during COVID, it was horrible in the city. Right now, the city's pretty dirty still. When I go down there sometimes, I'm like, oh, it's nasty. But everybody wanted to get space. Remember, there was a flight. Everybody bought Florida, Connecticut. The Tommy Hilfiger mansion sold for like $80 million. It had been in the market 10 years. Like, everything was getting gobbled up. And now, I think we're going back to normalcy, which is okay, because it's runs. You have runs and trials and peaks and valleys. And I believe we're going to go stable, but stable means you can do 10, 15, 20 transactions a month. You could do that still. People are doing like 50, but I'm not trying to do 50, $100,000 loans. That's what all the guys that I know that were doing mad transactions were buying Pennsylvania, buying Connecticut. Why? Because they were outpriced in New York, so they migrated. Yeah.
Well, on my end, it's a little different. The margins are a bit lower, so those numbers better be amplified. Especially when you have a...
Well, you can always do co-ops. You can always do co-ops.
Yeah.
I hate
that's
co-ops.
what I say. No, but that's what I say. I mean, to a degree, it doesn't really even matter what the sales price is.
For you, right. For you,
they're
right.
pretty much going to be around the same number anyway.
Right.
Borough-wise and sophistication-wise, that's where, things can get a little bit different. Manhattan, I always use as a reference point because, typically it's higher price points. But you're also dealing with more sophisticated people who are purchasing. So
and they have more expectation and entitlements.
Yeah.
I had it. I told you about the Westchester closing I had not too long ago. They're like, we're not gonna. I was like, then I'm gonna take my money and we're gonna leave now. We're good. And they're like, wait a minute. Then all of a sudden they kind of got back to normal.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. You do estates, wills and estates and wills?
Yeah, wills,
trusts,
trusts, and estates.
Let's break that out because we had a conversation before. So the generation before me, my mom and them, they came from Puerto Rico, whatever. They didn't have anything. So I was the generation that forced let's buy a house, let's do this, let's do that. And now my kids will inherit stuff, hopefully if it all goes right. Right. So the will, thank you for saying that. But the will then be where your assets get distributed, right? But why should they think about trusts and estates? Especially trigger point with the numbers that make sense in New York City, because they're not that unreachable, especially with today's economy, right? Everything's $1 million now.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah, no, we just had a brief conversation, I think, last week when we spoke about it. So, just to give a quick breakdown, the estate.
I think it's super important for people to know because everybody's on this hitch to be an entrepreneur, make $1 billion. What you gonna do? How you preserve it?
Right.
Making the money, I don't want to say this like this, but making money is not hard. Keeping money becomes a challenge, right? Because you can always, transactionally, you can make a lot of money. But how do you keep it? How do you preserve it? And how do you pass it on?
Right. Yeah, I think that's what we're.
So that's why I really want to talk about this because I think it's important, especially for the what do we call these guys? The Henrys, high energy or high income producers, not rich yet. Yeah, the Henry. There's an acronym for it. There's an acronym for it.
For me.
High earners, not rich yet. Yes, the Henry.
Okay.
I'm a Henry.
Yeah, me too.
There you go. Yeah, but I think it's super important. Yeah, I think it's super important.
I agree. So just to flesh it out a little bit, the estate is when somebody passes away.
Okay.
So the estate gets administered, gets probated. Typically, when you pass away, that's where the will and the trust come into play.
Okay.
So when you die, you have your estate. You have what's called a taxable estate. So what do you have within your estate? If we're talking about just the will, your will is a document that puts into place who you want to have authority over the estate, which would be called an executor or executrix. Mm-hmm. And then you have your beneficiaries. Who do you want to leave everything to? So that document, you still have to go to probate court, surrogates court. They're AKAs.
So there's no way around that. Even if you have a will, go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah. Well, for the will, you're not getting around that. The will is for estates.
Okay.
The will is for probate court. You go in and you get what's called letters testamentary if you have the will, and that gives the executor authority over the estate now. They still have to follow the terms outlined in the will. If let's say you have 2 properties you want going to your one son, and then you have 1 property you want going to your other son, that would all be outlined in the will.
Okay.
You have residual, you have everything that sort of hasn't been specifically
allocated,
gifted out and allocated. Yeah. And the way to avoid that is through trusts.
Okay.
So trusts allow you to avoid probate court and surrogates court. And like we were talking about just briefly again, for purposes of this conversation, there's 2 different types. There's a revocable trust and an irrevocable. So the revocable does what the irrevocable does in the sense that they both avoid probate court. Okay. Any item that you put in there, any asset that you put in there. In New York, with real property, you actually have to transfer it. So after you have your trust in place, now you have to transfer the deed from you individually to your trust.
Okay.
With the revocable, you can also be the trustee.
Okay.
So similar to will, executor, beneficiaries, trust, trustee, beneficiaries.
Okay.
So you can be both
on the revocable,
trustee on the revocable only, which a lot of people do because you still have control, authority,
of your
power over all of your stuff, and you can literally revoke it.
Right.
When you pass away, you have to have successor trustees in place that will step in, and now when you die, it becomes irrevocable.
Okay.
Now, who steps in as your successor?
It's whoever's been delegated or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So the multi-layer that an irrevocable adds is, for one, you can't be the trustee.
You can't be a trustee to your own trust.
As irrevocable. Because the purpose of irrevocable is you no longer own this. You no longer have control over it. You no longer have any say other than what's in the terms of the trust.
What's the benefit of that?
Well, the reason, and you see a lot of people with a lot of money who always have irrevocable trusts, is to avoid the estate tax.
Okay.
we talked about it. It's nuts.
Right.
Federal estate tax, 40%. That's over the threshold. The threshold is a little bit over 12 million right now.
Right.
So anything over that 12 million, they're taxing at 40%.
40%.
In New York State, it's somewhere around 15. So, and that
So 50,
is
55 in total? Or is that
55 in total. And New
Wow.
York State has about 6 million.
right?
So
Wow.
anything
So,
over
and
the
that,
6
like I
million.
said, everything's
6 million,
everything's $1 million now.
And the thing that people don't realize is you have life insurance policies. That counts toward your taxable estate.
Yeah.
People confuse it sometimes because I had somebody, I did a presentation on it, and I had somebody say, well, no, I heard your beneficiaries inherit and they don't get taxed. Not income tax. You don't get income tax.
Estate tax.
We're talking about estate tax. And who's
Yeah.
paying the estate tax?
Right.
The money that would have normally have gone to the beneficiaries if they had planned accordingly.
Right.
So that's one of the extra layers with irrevocable, but you better trust that trustee,
Right. Right.
you know?
Do men and women usually make their husband or wife their trustees?
Not advisable.
Okay.
Yeah, not advisable.
So who do you? You're an attorney,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Who do you get? Like kid?
Other family,
Your son, your
friends,
daughter?
You know, occasionally you can have a beneficiary, but you know, in a sense, that can be conflict too. Everything is on a case-by-case basis. You know.
Well, what have
depending
you
upon What
seen?
people want to do. I've seen. You can even have institutional. So you can have a law firm. You can have
Oh.
a trust company. So they literally will be the trustee. You know, you
That's
see
their
these-
company. That's their business.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you see these sort of things. Banking institutions have it typically.
Mm.
You know, that's always like, in my opinion, a safer bet when you get into the multiple successors because, God forbid, you pass away, your first successor trustee passes away, the next one passes.
Right.
You still want to have the trust in place.
Right.
You still want to have everything administered the way you put it, all the documentation into, you know, your trust on what you want to happen with your assets after you pass away. But one of the main things is avoids probate court, and it avoids confusion. You know.
Probate court has a. I mean, I don't want to say like I make it sound like they have their hand out, but it's like they're involved, right? Like if you don't have a trust, you got to come see me.
Yeah.
You got to come see me.
Whether you have a will or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, you got to come see
Yeah.
me. I'm getting something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part. For
Right.
the most part.
Okay.
You know, you see some people that there's certain workarounds and exceptions to the rule. If you know, let's say a father passed away and it's been more than 2 years and he has 2 heirs, but that's it. Let's say 2 kids.
Okay.
Let's say he had no wife, he has 2 kids. So the 2 kids, and all he had was that one property, no other assets. You know, let's say even if he had a bank account, but his heirs were the beneficiaries, maybe
Right.
the bank let them take that money
They
out.
could liquidate it. Yeah.
They jumped and they didn't ever probate the estate.
Okay.
The 2 heirs, as long as they sign off, typically the title company for the purchaser will ensure that transaction. You know,
Oh,
the unspoken rule, which is now spoken about,
Right.
is about 2 years. They want to give time for the creditors to come and make sure that
Get whatever they
nothing's
have
owed
to
for the
get.
estate.
Right.
But the 2 heirs can sign off as heirs at law on the deed of the decedent and transfer the property.
Oh, I know. See, I
Yeah,
learned
yeah.
something today.
I don't like saying it because then, you know, nobody's coming to me for the estate work. But hopefully I'll still get the real estate work, at least if that's the case.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I mean, look, you want Henrys, right?
Yeah.
Because in one house, they ain't gonna do it.
Yeah,
Like you
no,
want guys that are moving, guys and girls,
Yep,
that
yep.
are moving, and I think this stuff is super valuable to people if they pay attention because, like I said, making money, if you're good, is not a problem. It becomes, and not everybody's good at that, right? So there'll be generations, I believe anyway, there'll be generations of kids that won't be good at that because they never had the hunger, they never had the hustle,
Right.
and they've, always had everything kind of taken care of. But the guy, I'm using myself as an example, the guy who's out there, doing his thing, he wants to make sure, look, man, I don't have to leave you set for life, but I want to leave you set because, I can talk my own personal experiences. Whenever one of my parents died, I got the call, I got the bill. So I'm like, they're like, yo, I got the call and it was like, oh, we can't bury him yet. I'm like, why? I was in another country when I got this call.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't have the money. I was like, all right, how much is it? Let me send it. Like, and I don't want to ever do that to my kids and my wife because they're not built like that.
Well, look, we all want, the repeat client and the client that's doing a lot of moves from a transactional perspective. But, I always say when I start the conversation, I think it's something like 87% of the nation does not have their estate planning in place.
Right.
That's a huge, huge percentage.
Mhm.
And it's not spoken about. People aren't talking about this sort of thing.
Well, I
if you
think
have any
money's
kids, you have
like a
any
taboo.
assets, you have anything.
Money's like a taboo subject in so many areas, especially people of color. Like you can't talk about some people in my family, the wrong generation,
Yeah.
they start cursing you out. I'm like, yo, I'm I'm just talking about it. Like, you know.
It's a morbid topic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the thing is, when you're not like, again, going back, I can only use myself as an example, but if you're going back from the guy who's generating all these things, you got to look at it from the other side too. Like, all right, so if I'm not here, who steps in?
Exactly.
And if there's nobody, then you have to plan. And that becomes your responsibility.
This happens a lot. Families literally fall apart.
Yeah.
Because of arguments over monetary items and things like that. You know, you see this time and time again, and then not only does that jeopardize a transaction for, let's say, a lender or a realtor from a real estate perspective if the asset was real estate, but, you know, you're talking about the property may never be sold. You know, it might just get tied up in litigation or tied up in other issues. And, you know, worse yet, of course, family first above anything else. You know, you're gonna lose potentially a family member over an issue because everything would have stemmed back. If you would have planned properly from the beginning, this all would have been laid out already. There would have been no conflict. There would have been no confusion about what you wanted to do with your assets when you passed away.
You say it's a morbid topic, and I agree with what you're saying, but I also understand that it's a financial responsibility for the people that are financially literate, right? I forgot who I was talking to recently about financial literacy. It all stems from that. Like, oh, why are you talking about that? But like, you never know. I don't expect it to happen tomorrow, but if it happened, there should be a plan. Right? It's like if you get a flat tire, what you gonna do?
Right.
Well, we'll get a tow truck or have a spare. Like there's a plan, right? You don't want to get a flat, but you gotta have a plan if you get a flat.
This is why, you know, I'm super grateful to be here. Honestly, this guy, stand up. This is my first time doing this, but you having this platform and putting everything like this into place, this is the platform for everybody. Now they can all learn.
Yep.
Now they can all make sure that they don't make that mistake and they're not picking up those pieces when somebody passes away or when these issues arise.
Yeah, or maybe having this conversation at least maybe will change their mind about not having that discussion, right? Again, I go back to, look, man, COVID was 2019? 2019 to 2021.
Still going on.
Yeah, for 2021, there was a lot of money moving.
Yeah.
A lot of money moving.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought houses. That's all I'm gonna say. You know, and all these houses are worth $1 million now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere around here, $1 million. And this is the South Bronx. Well, this is the West South Bronx. Everybody's a millionaire on paper, right? But estate tax, you said it was $6 million in New York State?
Yeah, just a little bit above. And to be honest, even
so God forbid you have 2 or 3 houses. It's a wrap. You're there.
2 or 3 houses and a life insurance policy for 2 or 3 million.
Right.
And you pass away, you're over it.
Right.
You know, and Fed was raised during the Trump's tax changes.
Yeah,
it was around 6.
He had to cover
raised it to
himself.
12.
He had to cover himself.
It's expiring 2020. Yeah, had to do something.
Yeah.
In 2025, it's expiring, so it's going to go back to 6.
Why would it expire?
Plus inflation.
So if you die after 2025, it just.
Well, no. The
so everything you plan has to be done before that.
Fed was around 6 million for the estate threshold.
Right.
For taxes. He raised it to 12. It's scheduled to expire. In my opinion, it's either going to be extended legislation-wise or there's going to be new legislation.
Well, my question is this. If you die before that, great, you're covered. But if you have everything planned and all that, it doesn't matter? After 2025, it doesn't matter? Like if you're over $12 million, well, if you have it goes back to 6.
Well, this is only for irrevocable trust. So, you know, that's a very specific thing.
Okay.
A lot of sophistication involved and, you know.
A lot of assets involved.
Most people, they have no need for it.
Right.
You know. The other layer of irrevocable is the creditor protection. Revocable doesn't allow you that. So there's some people that go in with creditor protection.
So explain what creditor protection is to the regular person.
Well, what's a creditor?
Somebody you owe money to. I'm in the business though.
Yeah.
Tell them.
Creditor is somebody you owe money to.
And that could be like credit cards, mortgages.
That can be credit-wise. That can be anything. So what a lot of people do is if they already own a property and they have a mortgage on it, and then they transfer it into an irrevocable trust. The mortgages, you're not going to be protected from that. They have already had their lien on the property.
They've agreed to it anyway. Wait, hold on. So anyway, guys, boys and girls, a mortgage is a contract between you and a financial institution where you promise to pay them back money over time because you didn't have all the money in your pocket to buy the property. All right, back to the program. This is where little things like that, because they don't, a mortgage, it's a contract. When you get a foreclosure, it's a lawsuit. Yeah. They're suing you because you said you're going to pay them. I'm just trying to break it down for my people.
Yeah, no, that's a good breakdown.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what happens. So,
okay.
You know, we want to try to.
So you have it. I mean, you obviously mortgage it, then you move it over, so that's owed. But we're talking about credit cards, cars, things like that, right? Maybe they had a business.
Oh, quick question.
Yeah.
Can you, if somebody has an irrevocable trust and they want to buy a property, can you mortgage it? through the.
It would have to come out and go back in.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I heard. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I don't have any special, but I do have a program where I don't even pull your credit for bridge lending, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've lent money to people that don't have citizenship in their country.
Mm-hmm.
I've lent money to people that are not here legally, but I don't judge.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Me neither.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Kev. So if people want, let's talk about social media for a second with you. So you're gonna try to do social media, right?
Thank you, by the way. Thank you, by the way.
For what?
I think this is my catapult.
The segue?
Yeah. Sometimes you have all these plans in place. Even when you're talking about business, you have to plan everything before you actually go out and do it.
Right.
So everybody says, all you got to do is take the first step. No, you got to do some behind the scenes work too. You got.
I agree, and I disagree, and these guys don't know why. Only because when I decide to do it, I do it.
Yeah.
And if I fucked up, I fucked up. I'm cool. I'll correct it, but I don't do that part. Like all right, we met last week.
Right.
And you were like, yo, I was like, all right, come up. and then I had it ready, right? It was like, let's make it happen. You showed up, and here we are. It's that simple.
And we're both people of our word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which actually is rare to find in the industry.
Well, you want to speak about that? You want to?
That's a whole topic in
Go
itself.
ahead.
Maybe we should save that for number two.
No,
We'll save that for number 2, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a big topic. But there is a lot of gaslighting going on. And I will say, one of the things that I pride myself on is, and I hear a lot too, is authenticity.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
That's that word.
Yes.
That's that word.
It's hard to come by.
Okay.
It's hard to come by. Do you say something and then do you do it?
Right.
Are you just saying something to get my business and then that's it? Or have I seen you stand behind your word?
Yeah.
Today's a great example of, a newfound relationship where two people have said something and they're both doing what they're saying.
Yeah, and we got connected by good people.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And not even to mention name, but I'll say it this way. It's important to say what you're going to do or do what you're going to say you're going to do, because when you're not in the room and what people are saying about you, that's what really affects your business. That's what most people don't understand. It's when you're not in the room. When they say your name, is there apprehension? Is it confidence?
Right.
Like that becomes a thing.
Right.
And that's the part where a lot of people are getting it twisted right now on social media, because they think, oh, I'm just on the gram. It doesn't matter. That's cool. That's cool for what they call distribution. Right. A lot of people can see what you're doing, and that's cool. But what you're really doing, because you can't put, the business we are in is very intimate. So you see snapshots, but you don't see the day-to-day and all that. Yeah. And what you do behind the camera is really what propels your business.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand. They think that, I'm taking a picture in front of a Ferrari, I'm good. People are gonna come over. Bro, that's not what they need. Yeah. They don't need a picture of a Ferrari. They need you to figure this fucking situation out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of one and doneers out there and a lot of people who aren't long term.
Yeah, and the herd is thinning. The herd is thinning right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, a lot of guys that when you came in, there was probably an overflow of people. I'm in the business, I'm doing this. I don't know if you're seeing a little difference now. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm selling carpets now. Shit like that.
I see a lot of more staff-wise.
Okay, yeah, right.
People. I had somebody that had 100 people staff.
100 people.
Damn. Settlements started hurting because some of obviously the interest rates went up and things.
The volume went down.
Now I just heard recently I have like 15.
From 100. That's a big.
So they're just riding that wave.
That attrition rate.
Sense,
The big thing with that, and that's also in the banking industry, what I see is that they usually get rid of all the higher salaries, right? So they'll chop the fat that way. But the issue comes because it's all cyclical. What happens is you put a whole bunch of newbies in. Then when it starts turning around again, guys like me who've been in the game have to deal with these people. And you're like, what the fuck? What's happening? What's going on? And I know what happened, but it just, you can't track it. It's over 3 or 4 or 5 years that it happens. But yeah, man, and where do those people all go? Right? Because they go somewhere.
Maybe they are selling carpets, like you said.
Yeah, they probably are selling carpets there.
You need some carpet in here?
New floors.
I think I know a guy.
All right, Kev, when you can, please look at the camera. Tell people where to, and again,
yes.
You have your LinkedIn set up?
LinkedIn is on.
Okay.
And now we're opening up the door to every other social media platform.
All right, so
let this be.
So
let this be the
you got to
exception.
tell the camera where to get you. Like, where should they get you? Like, email you? Like, don't tell me, tell them.
Yeah, call Omar. He'll pass you.
I'll become the receptionist.
No. Phone calls. Office line, you can call 516-750-1973. We're fully staffed. We have some incredible people over there. One of them, whether you don't want to name or not.
No. You have great people
One of them
over
was the reason for our meeting.
First meeting, yeah, absolutely. absolutely.
Which, after a week, I'm already grateful for.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
www.kdiff, that's K, D like David, I, 2 F's like Frank, law, LAW.com. That's the website. You can check that out at any time. Any general emails, you can go KD Law Team, that's KD like David, Law Team at kdifflaw.com. So I look forward to hearing from you soon and helping you. Hopefully we can take whatever you're dealing with and make a positive out of it. If it's a real estate transaction, we're going to close it if it can close. So please reach out. We look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, boys and girls, that's it today.